Oops. Okay. Yeah, he looked very scary. Let me pull up these documents that you sent over. So Jenny did a ton of work pulling up all these documents. And do you want to tell us what they are? What all you sent? There's
Let me look and see. Are you pulling up like the citations of the state court from CourtNet?
yeah.
First of all, with the CourtNet citations, I saw somebody in the chat mention turkey beards and toes or something. I'm not an outdoorsman. I don't like being outdoors, but I'm guessing because he got charged and she's pulling it up with hunting violations in two different charges. And there were like 20 deer skull and caps, turkey beards over an inch. I don't know. I don't know this stuff. Um, but that's all he was charged with was hunting violations for state court. For federal court, they did a criminal complaint along with an affidavit, which the affidavit spoke about it's the sworn statement by a law enforcement officer, which was one of the federal agents that gives the details of the case. A lot of times you'll hear, and it does occur, grand jury indictments. I found it unusual that this was a criminal complaint with an affidavit. They use those more for speed and tactic to, in case they're worried about somebody that's going to destroy property or poses a danger to the public, which obviously he has posed a danger to the public for years. So I don't know why it took them, well, they had to do a criminal complaint, but maybe he thought that they were finally getting on him for these Indian bones and whatever else is buried. Grand jury proceedings, they are, which he has not been indicted yet. They have 30 days to indict him if he's in custody, which I would hope he stays in custody, or I believe 60 if he's not in custody. And that's where the prosecution builds their case. Also, he could get a criminal defense attorney who could possibly negotiate not bringing an indictment. I don't see that as likely. I mean, it's kind of outrageous. They didn't charge him with the 6,000 oxycodones that he forgot he buried in 2020, but didn't draw a map to. He They just charged him with over 500 grams or more of meth in federal court. It's all very suspicious, and London has had a lot of stuff coming out of it lately with the unaliving of the innocent guy who they thought was getting the weed eater, going to serve a search warrant with. I haven't been following the mayor, but the mayor and the city council. And then I also was looking last night in regards to there are a lot of missing young women that have been missing since 2020, 2021 in that vicinity.
There sure
Of
have
course,
been.
there's tons of people in Eastern Kentucky missing, but there seems to be an uprising, and I put it into my chat GPT as well to analyze it. And in comparison to like the 5 years prior to that, there's more individuals, and they chalk it up to runaways or ODs or something to that nature. And it just makes me think that somebody that has a dungeon to somebody that
To
has a
that
dungeon
level.
upstairs, that's what, and he has pills and math What was he
Mhm.
leading these women up there for? And they had knowledge, the feds had knowledge of this from an informant stating that he saw pictures of a young female in 2020. So it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. I think a lot of the news stations should be covering this. Maybe we're going to be the first ones to get a jump on it. But I'm just amazed. This is like out of a horror story. And that's the criminal complaint that was stating that on August 12th, that was when the DEA agents went for, I believe it's a welfare check, or they were doing a check on Scotty Shelton. And then attached to that is the affidavit, and that's what brought to get him arrested. That stood in place for the indictment, but the indictment would eventually come down the lines. In this
This
affidavit, I just find it interesting, the whole issue of saying some unknown man brought an Indian bone and buried it in his yard.
Do you want to read this or do you want me to?
It
We don't
just
have to read all of
it,
it.
all it discusses in the beginning is the agent's his training, and that
Qualif-
he'd been with the DEA for a certain number of years, and I believe he'd been with the Federal Bureau of Prisons prior to that, and that he's
Look,
empowered to conduct investigations.
look at number 2. Me and Jenny talked about this last night, I think. Look at number 2. I have been a special agent with the DEA for approximately 1 year. I attended DEA's basic agent trainee and academy in Quantico, Virginia. I'm currently assigned to the London resident office. Prior to the DEA, he worked with the federal prisons. But I want to point out something. This guy that's writing the affidavit, I don't know because I haven't read all of this yet or not, but it seems like he's picked up on something maybe that other people that had been there for years and years and years that was either letting it go purposefully, or they were so incompetent that weren't catching on to it. So we
Caught on to that too. That I think that because he had training and he had worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons prior to that for 8 or 9 years, and just for somebody that's got a year of experience with that agency to be able to write, and I believe it's 8 pages, it could be shorter or longer, of an affidavit, and he wrote it real fast because I believe it was signed on the 13th and this occurred on the 12th. So he had to be typing, typing, typing